Hey guys, Real 2K Insider here, and we're breaking down the Jrue Holiday trade. Jrue Holiday traded to the Boston Celtics today for Malcolm Brogden, Robert Williams, the 2024 first round pick of the Golden State Warriors, and the Boston Celtics 2029 unprotected first round pick. So let's break down Jrue Holiday. We already covered him a little bit in the Dame Lillard trade analysis video. He moves again a couple days later. Averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, shot 48% from the field, 38 from 3, 86% from the line. Was an all-star, made the all-defensive first team this season. Is going to pair really well with Derek White, who was on the all-defensive second team. Gives a clear replacement for Marcus Smart, who was the 2022 Defensive Player of the Year. Gives Boston an actual playmaker. Smart was never really that, and White was going to fill that role before the trade. He's not really a point guard, more of like a combo guard. But as mentioned in the Dame trade analysis video, Dame Holiday struggles in the playoffs. Career 50 true shooting percentage in 70 playoff games. Worth noting, Smart had 59 true shooting in Boston's last playoff run, and only 54 true shooting in the regular season. So I think Jrue can get there in the Boston system. Obviously, I think playing next to Giannis, who doesn't really have a playoff offensive game, that's, you're able to pressure more on the ball. And Holiday is, he's not a dynamic scorer or anything. He's not Steph, he's not Dame, etc. But he's solid. He's a good secondary scorer. But if you're asking me the first guy, you're going to run into trouble with the Celtics. He's pretty clearly a third option, I'd say, behind Tatum and Brown, able to focus more on his playmaking and defense and just provide shooting on the perimeter. Not too dissimilar from what Milwaukee was asking from him. But again, during the playoffs, things would kind of shift a little bit for Milwaukee, especially this year with Giannis getting hurt in the playoffs. That just put too much pressure on Holiday to get things done. So who starts now for this team? Because now you have 4 All-Stars, and then either Al Horford or Derek White as the 5th guy. Al Horford himself being a former All-Star. But I anticipate that it's going to be Horford. Horford started 69 out of 69 games last year. He's only come off the bench 10 times in his career, 4 times as a rookie, and then 10 times in Philly in 2020 when he had the ill-fated pairing with Joel Embiid. And White he started 70 games last year, but he did come off the bench 12 times, which is more than Horford has in his entire career. And prior to last year, he came off the bench when the Celtics acquired him. He came off the bench in 4 of their 26 regular season games, and then off the bench in 20 of 23 playoff games during the finals run. Also worth noting that he came off the bench 4 times in the playoffs last season. So he's pretty comfortable switching to either role. So I think it makes sense to have him come off the bench, kind of fill Brogdon's role. They're still going to play Peyton Pritchard, who was more or less blocking Brogdon last year. But the Celtics, one of their issues moving forward now that they made another 2-for-1 trade is they really don't have much of a bench. They've got a bunch of guys. It's Derek White or Al Horford, and then a bunch of guys who are basically minimum salary level guys. Peyton Pritchard maybe a little better than that. But Svi Mikhailiuk, Sam Hauser, Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett. Most of these guys are also on non-guaranteed deals too, so it's not even given that some of these guys will make the team. Luke Cornett's another guy. So, the Celtics have some serious depth issues. I don't think that they're done assembling their roster. It's worth noting that the San Antonio Spurs, they agreed to a buyout with Reggie Bullock. Where is he? Did I not release him? Let me go do that. So I think that Bullock would make a lot of sense for this Celtics team. They could use another 3-and-D wing, as would most teams in the NBA. But it seems that with the Brogdon trade, they probably have a role to offer him there. And as far as the outlook for this team, the Celtics already looked like the best regular season team in the East. Getting thinner might hurt them. although the players that they sent out weren't exactly the most durable, so it's probably just a wash. The Bucks matchup will be interesting. Jrue obviously used to play for the Bucks, so he's going to match up against his former team, and then Dame and Jrue having been traded for each other adds a little bit of intrigue. In the playoffs, the Celtics are probably the number 2 team though, as they literally have nobody that can guard Giannis on the team, having sent out Grant Williams in the sign and trade. I'm kind of starting to think that maybe they should have what's it called matched on his restricted free agency thing, because now they have a huge hole on their roster, like on the bench. So, but it depends. We'll see if the Bucks can even get that far. They did lose in the first round this past season. Dame isn't a guarantee of anything. So if the Celtics and Bucks don't match up, I would consider the Celtics favorites to go all the way to the finals. It just remains to be seen. The season's got to play out. Going over to the Trailblazers. Oh man, Anthony Simon's now the best guy on this team. Wow. They acquired Malcolm Brogden and Robert Williams, sending out Jrue Holiday. Brogden, he was the 6th man of the year this past season, averaged 15 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 62 true shooting on 22% usage, shot 44% from three-point range, which was 4th in the NBA. His season, though, ended up being marred by injury in the playoffs. He had a partial tear of a tendon in his elbow. He shot 7 of 14 in Game 1 against the Heat, but then he got hurt, and he shot 5 of 23 in the 5 games after that. 5 of 23, that's about 20% from the field. 1 of 14 on threes. He played 7 minutes in Game 5 and 7 and was a DNP in Game 6, so complete shell of himself, and his absence and diminished play likely turned the tide in Miami's favor. Allowed the 8th seed Heat to upset the Celtics, as they didn't really have the depth to compete. Also, didn't hurt that they shot something like 60% on threes, but it's worth noting that Brogdon, he was unhappy with how the Celtics handled his elbow injury. He was playing through it, and I think there was some talk of like they might have wanted him to get surgery and he didn't want to have surgery, or he might not have been happy playing through the injury. I don't remember exactly what the details were, but the Clippers actually ended up backing off of a trade for Brogdon due to his injury concerns, and that's ultimately what led to Marcus Smart being involved in the Kristaps Porzingis trade. The Celtics would have preferred to send out Brogdon instead, and they still get to move on from Brogdon here. But between the playoff thing and the ruffled feathers from almost being traded, basically this removes a potential camp distraction from the Boston Celtics. And as far as his role with the Portland Trailblazers, probably on the move again. Brogdon makes $22.5 million this year and next. There are teams that are going to be looking to trade for him, I think. They might be willing to offer a first, but maybe not. It kind of depends on the health of his elbow, as the Celtics did, I assume, back off on sending a first over to the Clippers. To the Celtics in such a trade. Maybe Miami can send them Tyler Hero. I just, and then Robert Williams. In 2022, fresh off all defensive second team, have being really the anchor of that defense that propelled the Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals. It would have been completely unfathomable that the Celtics would move off of Time Lord, but here we are. In 2022, he led the league in defensive rating, was 4th in defensive box plus minus, 3rd in block rate, 4th in offensive rebound rate, was one of the best rim finishers in the NBA, but got hurt, and then he played hurt during the playoffs in order to help get the Celtics to the finals, and I think that ultimately ended up hurting him in the 2023 season, and then possibly for the rest of his career. He had to have surgery again. Only played 35 games this past season, and he was less effective on both ends. It kind of feels like the Celtics are kind of betting against him moving forward. And he's only played, as far as his health goes, like projection for the rest of his career. 209 games Robert Williams has played out of a possible 390, so he's only played 54% of his career games. He played hurt during the 22. Sorry, I already said he already played hurt during the 2022 playoff run. Woo! And Time Lord was a high impact player, um, but probably looking at being like a high impact reserve now, just due to the durability issues. Um, he was already kind of in that role anyway with the Celtics, but given that he's now paired with DeAndre Ayton as well, that's probably what he's going to be looking at moving forward. He's a quality backup for Ayton. Portland says that they want to play them together. To me, that sounds about as enticing as Detroit playing Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman together. Like Ayton doesn't stretch the floor enough for that pairing to really work. Although it is worth noting that Williams does a lot of the things defensively that Ayton doesn't, so I understand why they think that they would be able to work with it. Obviously, offensively, Portland doesn't exactly have as much going for it, so might as well just max out on defense, right? But although they're not exactly trying to win many games either right now, they do project as the worst team in the NBA, and this is just going to be a Scoot Henderson's, going to be able to do whatever he wants rookie season. Worth noting that Brogden came off the bench in all 67 games last year for the Boston Celtics, so I presume that even if he did stick with the team, that he would be comfortable being in a six-man role. Right now, he basically is the backup point guard on this team. But Anthony Simons kind of fills that role, and Brogdon and Simons are pretty similar at the end of the day. So I think that they would move on from Brogdon. As far as whether or not the Blazers move on from Robert Williams, he is 25, same age as Ayton, so I think they make a fine, 1-2 punch at the center position. Maybe there's a team willing to gamble and send Portland something to make him their starting center. But I struggled to come up with a team where that really made sense, aside from Dallas, who has the worst starting center group in the NBA by a mile. Dwight Powell is basically a really poor man's version of Robert Williams to begin with. Rashawn Holmes is trying to have a bounce back year after a couple lost seasons in Sacramento, and Derek Lively II is a rookie. I don't remember exactly how much Holmes makes, but I know he's overpaid. There have been talks about Tim Hardaway. He's been in trade talks. He might be something they can move on from. So I'm curious. That was the one team that really stood out to me. Otherwise, I think Portland's certainly not in a rush. They'll probably see how Williams plays. But given his health, his injury history, they might want to sell high because given that they're not going to be in the playoff hunt or anything, being able to sell Robert Williams as a playoff player to contenders, that might have diminishing returns as he gets a little older. So the Dame tally, as is DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, 3 first-round picks, and 2 first-round swaps. 2 of those first-rounders are unprotected. Milwaukee's unprotected first. Both unprotected firsts are in 2029. Milwaukee's is more attractive than Boston's, given that Milwaukee's core is older than Boston's. I think Boston will still be good, but even if they slip a little, maybe you're looking at a pick in the 15 to 20 range if they slipped, whereas like Milwaukee's is probably going to be in like the lottery. So I think an overall pretty good return for Dame, and definitely better than whatever Miami was offering, because I don't think that they could have gotten the haul that they got for Jrue Holiday. I don't think that they could have gotten that for Tyler Hero. And technically, they can still get something in return for Malcolm Brogdon. They might be able to get like 2 seconds or a low-end first or something. We'll see. But yeah, the training camp hasn't even started yet, so it's the off season beats on. It's been a pretty crazy off season in the NBA, and you're going to be able to keep up with my 2K roster, the Real 2K rosters, the modern era. That is on the PS5, although now you can download it on either platform. That's my gamer tag and the file that you can search for. And you can you can check out my roster spreadsheet on patreon.com/real2krosters. I basically make all of my data on ratings and badges available. You just got to subscribe for 1 month. You don't need a yearly subscription. Once you get it the one time, you have access for the entire year. I personally think this is the best deal in all of 2K gaming when you consider how much they charge for VC and packs and whatnot. If you're into rosters and the NBA in general, this is a steal of a deal. So feel free to check me out. If you like the content of this video, like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz helps the algorithm. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next big trade. Let me know in the comments if you think this trade brings the Celtics over the Bucks, or who would you take in a playoff series. Peace.